Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of MysticU, Mystic Journey Bookstore's online university. We're here and offering information from the wealth of our colleagues here, ranging from Karmic astrology to Kabbalistic tarot to today's exciting topic of hypnosis and past life regression. We are very fortunate to be here with Miss Kyra Oser. And this gorgeous and talented woman will be sharing her insight, her experience with this kind of work and how it can serve you. So thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome.
I'm really looking forward to this education that we're going to get. Because I know that this is, like a lot of offerings here at Mystic Journey Bookstore, it's things that we've heard about, we may not properly understand. A lot of what we think we know may be assumption. And so these sessions have been really educational and insightful in terms of, what these modalities really are, what they involve, and what clients can expect if they want to take it a step further and experience it, for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So before we jump into that, I'd like to just share with you a little bit about Kyra because her background is really fascinating. And for those of us that are looking for guidance on the path, folks that can provide some insight, it's really helpful to know where they're coming from and their personal training. So, Ms. Kyra is a hypnotherapist, past life regressionist, a channel, and a medium with over 15 years of experience. As a certified hypnotherapist, she specializes in pain management, weight loss, breaking habits, relationship improvement, helping actors, artists, writers, and musicians to maximize their creative potential and their financial potential. I know this speaks to a lot of people here in our community, artists that are looking to move past any blockages, to not only just express themselves fully, but to sustain a life doing what they love. She's also a 5-season host of CBS's radio show, Zodiac Divas. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
What sustainable success. That says a lot about what you are sharing with people, that you are doing it in your real life. You're walking the walk as an artist and as a healer and as a teacher. 5 years doing something that continues to grow. I just find that really important because a lot of people offer suggestion, but they don't necessarily reflect that work in their life.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And then just to wrap this up, Kyra offers live on-air hypnotherapy guidance and channeling, and she also co-hosts with Butch Patrick on KKNW's The Love Channel. She's also recently been featured as a past life regressionist on WeTV's My Fair Wedding, and also LA's Kabayan LA?
Kababayan LA.
Kababayan LA. What is that?
Filipino LA. It's a Filipino station, and so the languages are Tagalog and English, and it's their most popular daytime talk show.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And let's see here. We can't forget tarot card reader, psychic, dream interpreter, astrologer, palmist, tea leaf reader, and all of these things. What's really fascinating is Kyra doesn't need any of that prior information or the questions to do the reading. She is open in all these different ways. The information is coming to her. And like I said earlier, we're just so blessed to have you here with your myriad of talents.
Thank you. Well, when you say the information just comes through, like with channeling and mediumship, that's because of self-hypnosis. Anyone can do that with training.
Wow. So is the hypnosis sort of a foundation or a basis for all of your work? Is that where you started?
Yes, it is. It's something that I do before I go in to do a tarot card reading or a psychic reading. I will first try to access my unconscious mind, maybe the collective unconscious, maybe even something from the spirit world. I'm not sure where it's coming from each time. But what I do is I do specific self-hypnosis exercises each time that are similar to a meditation. And then that helps me to set aside my ego temporarily and then to focus a little bit more on the other person and what their needs are, at least in the moment.
It sounds like your training and your ability to do the self-hypnosis allows you to connect to the information that's needed, that the person... do you feel like people, when they're seeking help, or when they are actively looking to be the change in their own life, do you feel like they are drawing to them the solution? And does that, do you pick up on that? I feel like it's a two-person, it takes two to tango.
It does.
They're bringing some part of that solution or energy or guidance to the room.
That's a good point that you bring up. And actually, it's true that a lot of what you do with hypnotherapy is you have all the resources within you to create the change that you need. And you don't actually need a hypnotherapist. In fact, there are other ways to create change in your life, like by having other experiences. But a hypnotherapist is like having a personal trainer at a gym. It gets you to your goal faster.
That's a really simple analogy. Yeah. Can you tell us about when you were first introduced to hypnotherapy or hypnosis? And
you really want to know?
I do really want to know. And I want to know how did that experience affect you?
Okay, well, when I was 15, I wanted to figure out how to get more gifts from my parents, and I read about hypnosis, and I thought if I could just put them under and hypnotize them, then they would want to give me more gifts. So I tried that, and they weren't really into it, but I did hypnotize my 10-year-old brother, and I did a past life regression on him, which led me to believe that past life regressions were something that could access a lot of information, because at the age of 10, he was talking like a 40-year-old and speaking in other languages.
I'm so glad I asked. How did that come to be? You put your brother under, and one thing leads to another. I mean, were you conscious of the fact that you wanted to inquire about his past life, or did that just kind of come up?
Yes, I'd read some books on past life regression, like one by Gloria Chadwick, which was out at the time, and that was what I was trying to experiment with. So the hypnosis led to the past life regressions. And then I studied it at HMI, so then I studied more techniques for doing it, so that I could use different tools to work with different people who have different needs.
Absolutely. So from that experience at 15 years old with your brother, how long, I mean, was it instant? Was it then you were reading more books and practicing all the time? Was it a couple of years until you decided you wanted to deepen your studies?
Every chance I got, I'd be doing a past life regression. So we had an outdoor school. I was going to school in Los Angeles, and it was really convenient because I could have everyone lay on the field.
That's really fascinating reading for a 15-year-old, and the confidence to test out, what you were curious about on your brother, and these amazing results. Then what?
Well, I continued to do the hypnotherapy. I learned different techniques. I would sit in on the audience at the British hypnotist Paul McKenna's TV shows and learn his techniques, and he'd put the whole group under, and I went under and I saw it worked, and then I'd go get hypnotherapy for myself, and I saw that worked. And a lot of the hypnotherapists I went to had studied at Hypnosis Motivation Institute in Tarzana, so then I went there and graduated, and that was extremely helpful to getting me further with it. But I've been doing it ever since.
And because, again, clearly this is a method and a process that is tried and true for you. And like you said, it supports a lot of your other work. What are some, perhaps, misconceptions of what people may assume hypnotherapy is, or going under, or hypnosis work? And what does it mean to you, not just in a one-off extreme situation when somebody is really seeking an answer, whether it's I desperately need to quit smoking or something to that effect, but what does it mean to you, the greater understanding of things? If everyone were taught these skills, what does it mean to you?
What does it mean to me if
Yeah.
everyone were taught these skills? Well, the first thing about the misconceptions is that a lot of people have the misconception that they're not going to be under control when they go under. And actually, you're only going to take in the suggestions that you're interested in. Only the things that you want to change on an unconscious level. And the thing that I hope people will get out of it is that they'll get to improve their lives, have more perspective, have more happiness, be able to achieve their goals, enjoy life more, and be able to have more tranquility and serenity in their lives.
And what is that a result of this? It sounds like through the process of hypnotherapy and having this kind of support, it sounds like something is able to shift or be released. And talk about that. What is it that happens in this session that can leave people changed?
Right. Okay. So basically, we have our unconscious mind and our conscious mind. Our conscious mind in studies has been shown to represent about 10 to 20% of our thinking. Our unconscious thinking is about 80 to 90%. So when you have a conscious thought and you're trying to change it, as you may have read about in books like The Secret, that's 10 to 20% of your mind fighting against 80 to 90% of what it's known from the past. So who's going to win? It's a thought against a thought. And in between your conscious and your unconscious mind, we have the analytical mind, which we might call the gatekeeper. And the job of the gatekeeper is to keep us surviving. It protects us. But when we're trying to create change in our lives, the gatekeeper can get in the way. So when we take a conscious thought, say I'm thinking, I'm successful, but then on an unconscious level, I have all these memories of not being successful, and I've convinced myself, or I've been told that I'm not successful, then every time I say I'm successful or someone tells me I'm successful, my gatekeeper, my analytical mind is going to reject, and say, nope, I don't believe it. That's not what I know. Because the unconscious mind likes what it knows. It doesn't judge our experiences to be negative or positive. It's all neutral to the unconscious mind. So what we do in hypnosis is we make the gatekeeper go to sleep. And when the gatekeeper is no longer arguing and chattering with us and you're closer to a state of sleep, then we can take conscious thoughts, notions that you tell me in your session that you want, say you want confidence or you want to stop smoking, and we're going to take those conscious thoughts and we're going to immediately put it into your unconscious mind. So we're basically reprogramming your unconscious mind like software so that as a habit, you're going to have new behaviors in the future automatically. Say I say to you, Riyaana, what color is this?
Brown.
Brown. You say brown. But what if I said to you, no, it's pink? What would you say?
I would tend to disagree.
Right. And it's an automatic. It's like within a fraction of a millisecond, you can disagree with me and say this is brown. But what if in our language, this had been named pink hundreds of years ago? We know it is brown automatically because that's something that we've been told so many times. And just like that, the choices we make in our lives are a habit that's so automatic that we don't really have time to change them. For instance, when we step out of the bookstore today, you might think on a conscious level, I parked left or I parked to the right. But after that, all the sensory stimuli that's coming to you is based on your previous experiences. Like if you've driven Hondas most of your life, you're going to notice the Hondas that go by. There are millions of things that you could be noticing around you, sounds, sights, smells, and what you're going to pick up on is mostly based on your past experiences. So what we do in hypnosis is we create a new experience for you through what you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you project into the future. That's just one of the techniques. And by having a new experience, then you believe that you're able to carry through with something different in the future. So you see yourself as successful, or I bring you back to a time when you do remember success, and then we create a memory for that and a way to automatically go back to it so that you can hold on to that success. Or say you don't feel successful in your relationships, but you're very successful academically. We can take that academic success and go back to that, and we can superimpose it on your relationship success. And then what you're doing is you're creating a new experience for yourself, a new vision of yourself in relationships as someone who can achieve them in a wonderful, loving way, even if you haven't done it before in this lifetime.
So it sounds like, well, two things. Would you, when you spoke of the gatekeeper, it kind of reminds us of many ways in which we would describe ego. how does that play into your work? The role of the ego is, and the habitual patterns, the sort of defaulting to these bad programs. How does the ego play into the conversation with hypnotherapy?
And that's a good question. Well, the ego wants to be right, and it has a purpose, a very helpful purpose, but sometimes it can get in the way. So it's similar to the gatekeeper in that way. The gatekeeper is a little bit different in that that's basically the part of us that wants to figure out what's around us, analyze the situation to keep ourselves safe, and therefore to perpetuate our survival. So it's really important that we have that part of our mind, but we just temporarily take it away when you're under. Another misconception that people tend to have about hypnotherapy is that in order to be completely under, you shouldn't hear anything, you shouldn't be consciously aware at all, and that's not true. Actually, it can work just as well if you're aware of everything I'm saying. And especially in the first session, you can expect to probably hear everything that I'm saying and to be aware. That's not to say you're not going to black out. It's not to say it's not going to go in waves where you black out and you're consciously aware again. But it's still working whether you're hearing what I'm saying or you're not hearing what I'm saying. You're still getting the suggestions. And all the suggestions, by the way, come from what you tell me in a session you want as your goal. I'm not going to superimpose my beliefs on you or the thoughts I have about how I think you should change. It's all up to you. You'll tell me what your goals are, and that's the only thing we're going to focus on.
Okay. And when you were speaking earlier of sort of implanting a new memory, something that it's kind of like a seed that can take hold and allow for you to receive these fruits of these new beliefs and new ideas.
That's a nice analogy.
Yeah. Well, you're
And
the
then
gardener.
flowers.
Yay.
Oh, good. I'm not good at regular gardening, so that's nice to know.
You're planting flowers in our minds. What I took from that is the ability to have this vision almost. Either have a vision or to recreate a feeling. There needs to be something that thing that is planted while the gatekeeper is asleep.
Yes.
And what you're saying is it's sort of it's like a seed of the future of what it is that you're looking to transform or what it is that you're looking to create, and you're assisting in this process by helping to paint that picture or create that feeling to then let that be the next, let that memory take hold, take root.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And now I'm starting to see how this really can help with specific issues that people can come to you with, like we mentioned earlier, with relationships or breaking habits or weight loss. We've heard this in other modalities or in other processes. Whether it's fake it till you make it or the affirmation or the visualization, this just seems like a dialed up, more powerful version of visualizing yourself already healthy, feeling yourself already receiving that, accomplishing that, having that, being that.
Yes, and an important thing I want to mention too is that if you don't visualize, it still works. I'm going to say to you something like visualize or imagine, picture or pretend. It works just as much if you're just feeling the sensation of being successful as if you see it. Some people are more visual, some people are more auditory, some people are more tactile. We're going to figure out which senses are strongest for you, and one sense is enough. And if that sense is being emotional, that's enough.
Yeah, because everyone has their best way of retaining information. Yeah, and being able to be clear on what is given to them.
It's like different learning processes.
Absolutely.
And the different ways we experience in the world, the way that we experience the world, it's all valid, even though we're taking in information in different ways. So I'll figure out for you what's the particular way that you learn best, that you take in information best, and then I'm going to tailor the session to you specifically. And also, I encourage you to audio record the session because then you can keep using it over and over again.
And for those moments where you may not actually have that full awareness of what's going on in the room, you have it recorded on your smartphone if that's the case, and you can be like, wow, that's what was happening during that point in time.
That's right. If
Yeah.
you aren't fully aware, then you can go back and listen to it. And it's especially interesting for past life regressions because then you can check the historical material against facts that you can read about elsewhere.
Yeah.
But back to the other things that you can do with it. There are so many improvements you can make in your life with hypnosis, and that's what's so exciting about it. No matter what you're going through, if you're going through a grieving process or if you are allergic to anesthesia and you need hypnoanesthesia, it actually works for that as well.
Wow.
It works for hypnoepidurals, so some people use it during labor. A lot of people want it for weight loss or for quitting smoking or quitting other habits like nail biting. And one thing that a lot of people come to me for with hypnotherapy is improving their relationships. Being able to have a healthy relationship, being able to have a loving relationship with a partner who's compatible with them in the ways that they're seeking. And it can really help with that.
And I think what's really key to point out is sometimes we know what we want. We know what we want to transform and overcome. However, it's not simple for a lot of people to understand the root cause of whatever the obstacle may be. And oftentimes the obstacle is us, ourselves. But we have ways of sort of veiling that root cause, almost keeping it from ourselves. Whether it's painful to, look into the past in a certain direction, or you've just maybe have a lifetime of shying away from that or denying it or avoiding it. It's so great to have that assistance and to keep that part of you that is resistant, to almost put the part of you that's resistant to sleep so that you can more easily access that root cause. I'm not a hypnotherapist. Does this sound
Oh yeah,
accurate?
You're getting the idea. It is accurate. It's true. Because what you're doing is you're accessing the part of you that really does want the change. And if you're coming in for a session, it's likely that you're investing your time in it. You do want the change and you're ready. And you have to be ready for the change in order for it to happen. But most of the time, if you're coming in, that is what you want.
Yes. The other thing that's really wonderful about this kind of help and support is it doesn't have to be, 3 years and $300,000 worth of therapy and painstaking, laborious work. It's, I believe that change can be instantaneous if you are ready, if you are willing, if you have the support.
Right.
And this kind of assistance, I feel like if you're showing up and the time is for you and the time is now and you're committed, things can click and you can leave a session ready to start taking different action. Have you seen this with your clients?
I have. I've seen really fast changes occur. I've seen people who have a string of abusive relationships and who come in saying, I don't want this anymore, I want a healthy relationship, but I just can't help but keep going for these people who are destructive for me. And I've done one session with a person who was able to immediately make a shift and let go of an abusive relationship and moved on to something healthier. It happened within the matter of days. It can happen very quickly. Now, how quickly the change is going to take place depends on how deep the emotional issues are. So people ask often, how many sessions is this going to take? If it's a really deep emotional issue, it could take more sessions. But if it's something like breaking a habit, it could be as little as 1 or 3 sessions to change a behavior.
Would, to clarify, if someone is wanting to take that very courageous step, for example, towards a path of recovery, maybe they've been struggling with addiction. That's not necessarily the same thing as nail biting. Addiction usually stems from, stems from those deep-seated, more emotional problems. But this, I imagine, is part of your practice and your offering, treating and assisting people in recovery or just stepping out of addiction for the first time. Could you speak a little bit about that?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked about that because I'm very excited about helping people who are in recovery. And I want you to know that there's not a cure for alcoholism, there's not a cure for drug addiction or other addictions, but what hypnotherapy can do for you is it can minimize the symptoms of withdrawal. It can make it easier for you to go through recovery. It can help you to focus on your recovery program if that's what you want to do, but if parts of you are fighting the recovery program. So it's a good measure of assistance along the way. And I usually ask that if somebody's working with me and they're trying to focus on ameliorating an addiction issue, I would recommend doing it in conjunction with a 12-step program, because that's how it's going to be most effective for you. And 12-step programs can be a daily thing, whereas the hypnotherapy is not going to be as frequent.
Yeah. Holistic treatment.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right. And
yes.
some people are going to want traditional therapy in conjunction with hypnotherapy, and some people will need traditional therapy in conjunction with hypnotherapy. But you're right, hypnotherapy can help us to get some of our goals faster.
Right. So we have earlier briefly touched on past life regression. And we've just now made the distinction between some of the concerns that perhaps can be remedied in 1, 2, 3 sessions, and then there are certain things that may be more deep-seated. We can, talk about in our youth when we're so impressionable, and these are our formidable ages, and between the age of 0 and 5 or 7 or 10, all of these things that inform who we are and how we are. But that it doesn't end there. We can take this back to previous lifetimes.
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned age regression, because actually age regression is not something we would do in hypnotherapy. It's not something I practice as a hypnotherapist because it's too emotional. There's no need to dig up those feelings in order to get the benefits of hypnotherapy. Unless we're going back to find a lost object, which actually hypnosis can work for.
Like something you lost when you were a kid?
Right, exactly. Oh, yes, or even in the last week or two, you're looking for the necklace, we can retrace the steps to try to find it. And another thing is, if we want to find an association, like I said earlier, if you're trying to remember a moment of academic success, we might bring that positive day back as a memory and then superimpose it on imagining the success of your relationships. But a safer way, a less emotionally triggering way, is to go to past lives, because there's such a separation from those previous lifetimes that we may have lived in that it's not going to have such a heightened intensity to it.
Such
it's not
a
going
charge.
to be as upsetting. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just easier to go through.
Well, so let me ask you this, because the question comes up for me of, can we then address the same issue? Because I have limited knowledge of hypnotherapy and past life regression. That's why we're doing this interview, because I'm so curious and hungry to learn more. My response to that is, well, I would assume that the majority of what we are managing in our adulthood stems from our childhood. And I feel like that's actually what a lot of, contemporary and very prominent self-help, personal development literature conversation says, is this, let's point to childhood. I feel like I'm hearing that we don't necessarily have to go to the childhood, because it may be just like reawakening the trauma. We can go to a past life. Really, the past life for the same concern that I showed up. Explain how that works.
I'm glad you brought that up. That makes a lot of sense to me. And the thing about this lifetime is that, yes, many of the issues could come from this lifetime, but it could come from further back. And if you still have the issue in this lifetime, it's very likely that it's been going on for even longer. And
Let's say that again.
Okay.
If the issue has presented itself in this lifetime, there may be a reason for it that has to do with this.
Yeah, well, past life regressions can be helpful in a multitude of ways. One way is that even if I don't suggest it, when you go back to previous lifetimes, you're going to be instantly hitting the lifetimes and the events that relate to the issues you're having today. Your unconscious mind wants to help you, wants to heal. So you'll be going back automatically to what you need. Also, it can help clear fears. So say you have a fear of wearing turtlenecks, or of anyone getting anywhere near your neck, or having a neck massage. You may go back to a previous lifetime and find out that there was an issue where someone put their hands around your neck, and that's why you feared it all along. And then you get to clear that fear and let it go and say, oh, now I understand, because the brain loves to understand why. And another thing is it can give you perspective on your life today. And a really interesting thing is that some people believe that we travel in soul groups and that we know some of the people time after time. And if you're having issues in relationships today, you can go back to previous lifetimes and figure out if those were people that you knew before, and why do you have issues with them today? Does it go beyond this lifetime? And some of us feel it does. Now, does it matter if you believe in past lives or not to have a past life regression?
That's a great question.
Some people wonder that.
Yeah.
So, no, it doesn't matter. Actually, whether or not you believe in past lives isn't even relevant. If you do a past life regression, it's a form of therapy, no matter what. Dreaming is a form of therapy. The early morning venting dreams that you have are like nature's therapy. That's how I think of it. And so when you do a past life regression, your unconscious mind is going to go to something that is going to help you heal in the most efficient way possible. So then there's no pressure on you to figure out, is this real? Is this really happening? Did this happen? It doesn't matter. Either way, it's healing your issues. If you're coming in and you just aren't feeling quite right and you want to feel better, but you don't know in what way you want to feel better, you could just do a past life regression. You're instantly going to go back to the issues that are bothering you and then be able to clear them.
Do you find, or have you heard from some of your clients that maybe they've had a sneaking suspicion all along it was something related to that, or they've had their own intuitive hits about something related to what comes up in the session? Because if your subconscious mind, if your brain is on the case, it's trying to help, it's doing what it can, the intuition, I imagine, plays a part in that. I imagine that outside of the cerebral mind and the logical, analytical processing, there's another part of you, your soul, your spirit, that's trying to get you the sign or that message. What do your clients say after the session, after there's this new information brought to the table?
Once in a while, a client will say that it confirms what they knew all along, but often people are surprised and new information comes up that they had no idea would have come up and that they would have never imagined themselves as. Like a tiny young lady who was a burly sailor or a Viking in a previous lifetime. It's not what she's expecting. It's not the stereotype that you'd imagine for her or that she'd imagine for herself. But it also gets you to kind of broaden your perspective on all of humanity, because then you get to see through other people's eyes, hear through their ears, have different cultural experiences throughout time, and it really can give you empathy and compassion for people on different socioeconomic levels than what you're used to, in different cultural experiences, in different countries, you speak different languages, because you're going to see yourself doing that. And you may start to then feel for others because you've been able to see through similar eyes and to have similar experiences. So I think it awakens compassion too.
That's beautiful. And I like that you reminded us that you're going to see for yourself. And again, for some people, it may not be a seeing. Maybe you'll hear something for yourself or just have a feeling for yourself. But there is an experience to be had that does connect you to this, like you said, the humanity of what we all experience through our lifetimes, which is actually deeply profound. Because so often we go through our day-to-day, we go through years, and it's like living on an island. And when we have the opportunity to really connect to our human family and this human family experience, it has possibility for very lasting change in how we relate to each other and how we care for each other.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And past life regression can take you out of isolation, and you don't even have to move a bit, and it's free travel around the world throughout time.
Well, what do you mean by take you out of isolation?
Well, if you're someone who hasn't had a lot of experiences of being exposed to other cultures, or if you haven't traveled a lot, or if you feel like you've lived in the same community for most of your life but you haven't really had a chance to see how other people live, past life regression is an opportunity to experience that. And I've had people go back to prehistoric times. It's incredible what kind of experiences they've seen.
Wow.
And then sometimes they'll see or hear something unusual that they wouldn't have expected in another lifetime, and then go back and historically be able to validate or confirm that.
That's amazing. well, not we've all, but some of you may have seen the YouTube videos or even on, prominent news programs where there are these children that their parents, thank God, have listened and not shut the children down, but been genuinely curious about what are you saying? What are these things that you're speaking about? And then brought on, people from the scientific world or historical world to validate the memories and the experiences that these children are sharing from their past lives. And I am so grateful for that, just because it says, we can't rule things out, and then it opens the door and it leaves the door open. Not just for hypnotherapy and past life regression, but for all sorts of, different kinds of human experience and human understanding. Let's see, this is so fascinating. Tell us about the past life that is informing this experience. Tell us about the past life that holds the solution for whatever is aching or paining us in this moment. Why this one particular life? Is it one particular life? Is it a karmic lesson that's happening lifetime after lifetime? When we go under and we go to this place, why that place? Why that lifetime?
That's another good question. That's becoming like a tagline for me. That's a good question. You do have some great ones.
Thanks. So this is a fascinating conversation.
Thank you. Well, I think that when we go back to one particular lifetime, it's because that's what, on a really, really deep level, we're ready to change. And we'll go back to a particular day in that lifetime that's going to most help us create that change. It won't even be just the lifetime. You'll have a specific experience, be looking through that person's eyes, hearing through their ears. Although it's not always visual, a lot of people do see in a past life regression. And when you're going through that, I'm going to prompt you and ask you questions like, were you happy in that lifetime? What were your beliefs? What were your relationships like? And very importantly, what issues were you going through, and why did you choose this day to go to of all days? And how does that relate to your present lifetime? What can you learn from this? And I will ask about karma. Do you still have karma you're holding on to from that previous lifetime? And sometimes the karma people talk about isn't about events that occurred or things they made happen. Sometimes the karma is just that they'll say, well, I still feel regret over such and such, and I'm holding on to that, and I'm ready to let it go.
Wow.
It's holding me back.
Wow. As you were speaking, I started to get curious about who's responding. Who's responding when you're asking these questions?
Oh, that's a philosophical quandary.
I hope you've got lots of memory on this camera, because we're going to go there. No. Who is responding? Is it the higher self? Is it the subconscious? Is it the person from that past life? Is it the you today that came in that said, I'm ready to let this go? Is it a combination of all of them?
It works on many levels, so it could be a lot of different things. So it could be that it's just you today observing it, and if it gets emotional in a past life regression, I might have you step back and watch it like a film. So then you would be speaking as yourself today. It's like you're watching this historical period piece for free that you star in. And then the other thing is that you may be speaking as that person from before, because that person is a part of you. All these people are a part of you, and your soul is traveling through these many bodies, going through these different experiences, but there's still that essence of you. And when you're speaking, once in a while someone will go so deep they'll speak in another language. But what you're going to do is you're going to instantly translate it into the language that you understand today, because I'm speaking to you in English and you're going to speak back to me in that same language. But I've had people go in and out of different languages too.
That's really fascinating.
People who don't normally speak German, speaking some German, it happens.
What can clients expect when they come in for a hypnotherapy session or past life regression session? Can you walk us through this experience and
Sure.
and put yourself in the shoes of someone who has never done this before, maybe has some apprehension that may not be about hypnotherapy or past life regression, but I find that often when you've reached that point of being sick and tired and fed up and you're ready for change and you've got that conviction, there is a part of you that is going to resist because it can sense you're taking action. And like you mentioned, there's some part of you that wants to stay the same, that wants to keep that looping.
Because it's comfortable.
Because it's comfortable, because it's what you know. So what can they expect?
Well, when someone comes in for a hypnotherapy session, let's say if you came in for a session, I would first of all ask you, what change do you want in your life? What's your goal by being here today? And it might be one goal, it might be more than one goal. And then I'll explain to you how hypnosis works, why it works, and how it's going to work to help that particular issue. And then I'm going to ask you, do you have any concerns about it? Do you have any questions? And make sure that you're comfortable with it. I'll get you ready to record, and then what we'll do is we'll do a series of exercises that are tailored just for you. And those exercises are going to first heighten your awareness and then drop you into a state of relaxation. Now, I'm not going to go into each one of those exercises because then I'm going to put you and all the rest of the people listening under. And Alex.
And we'll lose our camera guy. And I'll just slump over my chair.
Right. It's a bunch of things that are basically, it's like I'm overburdening your senses, or I'm creating a sense of heightened stimulation so that you're hearing and seeing and experiencing different things at such a rate that you actually finally just say, okay, I'm just going to let go and stop trying to analyze this, and then you go under, and that's how we lose the gatekeeper.
Oh.
So I get you into a state of being almost overexhausted with everything I'm throwing at you until you finally go into fight-flight mode, and you're either going to keep resisting and resisting. If you keep resisting, I'm going to see that. I'm going to see through different bodily mechanisms, and like, are your eyes fluttering enough? Are you going to rapid eye movement? I'm going to ask you questions like, is your throat getting dry? Because if your throat's getting dry, that means you're also going under. And I'm going to kind of watch you and do different tests to see if you're under or not. Like I would do perhaps an eye test to see if you aren't opening your eyes. And I could say you could try to open your eyes, but the harder you try, the more difficult it becomes. Go ahead and try, and the harder you try, the more difficult it becomes. And if you're not opening your eyes, then I know that you're already going under, and then we can count you down and then drop into a state of relaxation. And then we do a meditative relaxation, which many of you have probably done relaxation exercises or meditations before, so you'd be familiar with that. But when we do that, then we're going to go into a series of other exercises that deepen and deepen and deepen. And we keep going deeper and deeper. And then I continue to observe your behavior to see how much deeper you need to go to be in that necessary state, to take in all of the suggestions that I will give you. And then every session is a little bit different based on what your goal is.
Got it. And so, yes, every session would be different depending on if this is, we're here and we're looking to break a bad habit, or we're observing and we're digging deeper and we're observing and we're digging deeper, and this is a emotional issue that stems from, okay, past life. So that's a completely different session. And then, yes, go ahead.
Oh, but it's not a script either. So when someone brings in information about what their fears are, they may have very unique fears based on unique experiences, and I'm going to read back to you the same words that you use when you're telling me what your goals are, because that's what's really going to hit you and speak to you. You're speaking to me in your own language of what your concerns are. I'm going to feed back those same things to you, thereby creating a totally unique session. So it's not like something you could just get on a CD.
Right.
It's really tailored for what your needs are. So I'm really listening in the beginning, and then I'm feeding that back to you. But I'm also superimposing different techniques that I learned at the Institute.
Right, that's really good to know, because that's how it would be most effective, is if I know what this means to you, I've communicated to you, Kyra, and now you're using those words to really like get me to the right place, because again, if it were a script, what you would be saying may mean nothing to me at all.
Yeah.
And if it were a script, there would be no emotional pull. I would not feel in any way engaged. So I think that's important for the viewers to understand.
Yeah, it's very personal. And so if I use what I get from you while you're under, and then your unconscious mind is more likely to listen.
Okay. Okay.
And of course, then we count you out and count back up to 5 because then, you know, you're not going to stay under hypnosis. But you can also take yourself out at any time. Say if you felt uncomfortable or you just felt like you wanted to come out of it. I haven't had that experience before, but if you did feel in the middle of it like, I'm not into this, I don't want to do this, I'm just going to jump out of it, you physically would be able to do it if that was your desire. It's not likely to be your desire because you wouldn't be coming in and spending the time on it and explaining your situation if you didn't really want the change. But it's not one of those situations where you're just stuck there and frozen and you can't do it. It's not gonna happen like that.
I'm glad that you mentioned that and I didn't have to ask.
Before I put you under later today.
And I'm like, oh, this is what she meant by getting us out of isolation. I can't help it. Okay, wonderful. And I also appreciate that you mentioned that once we're there, we're under, your next step is to really create this feeling of relaxation, which equates to feeling like you're in a safe enough place to really tackle this concern and this issue. So we've learned a lot about the process that unfolds in this session. How long does this usually take, and what can folks look to accomplish in a visit with you?
It takes an hour to do hypnosis, and the first 10 minutes of that hour or so, 5 to 10 minutes, we're going to be discussing what you need to go through, and then you can record it or I can record it for you. For a past life regression, it's an hour and a half if you want to get to a few lifetimes. And what you can also expect in a session is that we're going to work on letting go of doubts, stresses, of habits and fears, no matter what you're working on. And we're going to work on getting you to sleep more soundly, more quietly, more deeply throughout the night, and to wake up rejuvenated, refreshed, and relaxed. Because if you don't sleep well, it's very likely that other issues in your life are going to become magnified. So we always want to work on getting you to have deeper sleep, and we also work on dream therapy in every single session. At the very end of the session, I'm going to give you some suggestions to continue to vent out in your early morning dreams anything that may still be an issue based around why you came in today. So if we're working on something like weight loss, you may continue to vent out any fears or concerns you have around body image throughout your dreams for the next week or two. And that's why I would often have people who want to come back wait at least a week, because there are going to be changes that you're going to go through over the next week that are going to be coming through your dream life. So you'll see about a week later, check in with yourself and see how you're doing. A lot of people have only needed to come in once for their issues, but as I mentioned before, for behavioral change, it could be anywhere from 1 to 3 sessions to create that change. But what you do is you just come in one session at a time, and if one session's enough, great, and you're recording it and you can keep listening to it. And for the deeper emotional issues, it could take a little bit longer to work on it, depending on how deeply it goes. What was the other question? I'm sorry.
No, that was. It's really helpful for everyone to understand what to expect. My question was, when you are providing the suggestion, earlier you mentioned the suggestion is coming from that initial intake interview, for example. What are you here to accomplish, or what are you here to release, let go of, resolve? You're providing the suggestion while the client is still under, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And what does that commonly sound like?
What I'm going to do is I'll continue to bring you deeper and deeper. So if I notice that maybe your eyelids aren't fluttering as much, so you're not in as much of a rapid eye movement state, then I'll go say something like, deeper and deeper with every breath that you take, deeper and deeper with every word that I say, drifting and floating and fading away, letting go, letting your mind wander. So those are the kind of things that are going to come in between the suggestions. And then another suggestion I might give would be something like, see yourself, your ideal self, the ideal you, standing at the top of a staircase. And when you see this ideal you, this truly is the real you. This is the person you really are on a deep level. And I want you to see yourself looking the way that you would ideally like to look, wearing the clothes you would like to wear. I want you to see yourself looking confident, feeling well, being relaxed and peaceful, and see yourself in a state of being successful in every level of your life. And now I want you to float into that ideal you, see through your eyes, listen through your ears, feel your feelings, and now I want you to see the colors brighter and more intensified. I want you to hear the sounds louder than you've heard them before, and I want you to feel your feelings in a more intensified way. And now you're going to take your hands and hold on to the hand railings, and we have 20 steps to go down. You're going to step with the left foot going down the stairs, and I'm going to count from 20 to 1, and when we get to 1, you're going to go 10 times deeper. And so then I count you deeper and deeper as you hold on to the railing, which is grounding you in the reality of the experience, as is the left foot forward first. Because then we'll make sure that you're noting after that, you're probably going to go, oh, now right, oh, now left, and you're grounding yourself into the reality of that staircase and of the feeling of being in the ideal you, because that ideal you is within you and within all of us. It's just a matter of embracing it and rediscovering it.
And for something like visualizing and feeling and experiencing yourself as the ideal, it's not a skill you learn in school. It's not a common practice. So we truly do need guidance, and it's so fascinating, even as you were just sharing that right here, how we want to go with you. We want to have that experience of, yes, what does it feel like to be my ideal self? What do I look like? What is my surrounding? We want that. Just like you were saying earlier, your subconscious mind wants you to feel better, wants to heal. And so when these cues come along, it's like, yes, what does this look like? What does this feel like? You know, and it's almost like being granted the permission to build that vision out and to feel into it, and like you said, to kind of ground it. That's really fascinating. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome. Absolutely.
Yeah. The last thing that I want to touch on before we begin to wrap this up is, what can folks expect after the session? Is there you're going to be, I'm just making this up, you're going to be hungry and dehydrated, or you may be emotional, you may feel a sense of bliss, you may be sad. Does it vary?
It varies. You may be releasing throughout the week or in the weeks to come.
Physically?
Oh, no.
It's a valid question.
It is. It's a very valid question.
Goodness.
I hope not. No.
Will there be a purge?
Definitely not a physical purge. There could be some crying if you're letting go of something, and it's okay to let yourself have that. It's very rare, but it could happen if you're working on a deeper emotional issue that you're letting go of. Often people will feel a state of peacefulness afterwards. I've heard a lot of people tell me that, oh, I just feel really kind of floaty now. I feel like I'm relaxed. Usually I give a suggestion for you to be smiling at the end, and then when you come out of it, you're going to feel more joyful, or you're going to notice funny things more, or your sense of humor is going to become heightened, that sort of thing, so that when you come out of it, you're meant to feel optimistic, feel well, feel better, and be more aware of things that you're grateful of in life. It can help you with that. And it really works for change. It works for creating change. Those changes could take weeks, they could take months. Be patient with it, but the changes do occur over time. And I'm going to give you suggestions like, in the weeks and months to come, you're going to find that you have an increased sense of confidence in business, and you're becoming more and more excited every time you attend a meeting. And people are really listening to you. You're noticing them, see them, and hear them listening to you and understanding you. And then hear them clapping for you. And that's another thing, is that for sports performance enhancement, or for performers, or for people who are involved in business, it can be really helpful to visualize and also to hear and to sense the weather, even the temperature of the room, when they're going to be in a situation of achieving those goals that they want.
That's wonderful. I'm just thinking of all the various applications of, I'm studying for my bar exam, and I have major test anxiety. I'm not. I would never be a lawyer. It's just not my bag. But
some future lifetime.
Yes. You just looked at me like, really? Because I just saw you as a lawyer. Like, that was the look I got. Like, oh no, I can see that.
I can see it. Yeah, I can picture that.
Yeah. Anything that we may have noticed, I have a resistance and apprehension, a fear. this just seems like a wonderful tool.
Okay, phobias. It's big
Yeah.
for phobias. It's very helpful if you're concerned about, say, getting on a plane.
I was just thinking
Then you
that.
can listen to the recording on the plane, which
Yes.
is really helpful. Exam taking, it's helpful for that. I've had people who were flying somewhere for an audition, so I had them do a session on visualizing the audition going well, just to quell the anxiety that was coming up so that they could be more calm and natural and perform during the audition in a way that felt authentic to themselves and where they could really focus on the character instead of the anxiety. And so that particular client would just listen on the flight over to the audition, to the session again and again, and that was kind of comforting as well. But it works for so many different phobias. Agoraphobia, if someone's having trouble even getting outside, it can help with that. It helps with all kinds of exams. For concentration, memory recall, for the relaxation that's necessary in order to induce the memory
Right.
recall. It's all connected.
Right.
Throw out some other ones. I'll tell you if it works. It works on children, too. There are special sessions for children that are shorter.
There's something that you want to share or want to say or get off your chest, and perhaps it's just a weight and you can't find I imagine that this would be an amazing tool to help you step out of that and finally say your say, stand in your truth, or make your peace.
Mm-hmm.
It just made me think right now of can you speak about forgiveness? How does that show up in this work? I don't know why, it just came to me in this moment of something that can provide tremendous relief, and oftentimes it's one of those things that people don't necessarily know that they need.
Yes.
Either to forgive themselves or to forgive someone else.
Yes, and I think most of the time what I've encountered is the need for self-forgiveness and letting go of regrets. So what I've encountered with past life regressions, for instance, is sometimes we need to forgive ourselves for things that happened a long time ago, and other times we need to forgive the people who we perceive to cause events in the past. And
could that be groups of people?
Yes, it could be groups of people. People could hold resentments against a group of people because of what occurred before. And so in getting to that self-forgiveness, then it's easier to forgive others. And that can carry through into your present day life and into taking responsibility for your own behavior rather than getting into blaming others for things, which actually helps you along the way in terms of recovering from past traumas.
Okay.
So it's very valid for helping with forgiveness too. Whatever
Yeah.
your goals are, it really can get you further with it. It can only help.
Mm-hmm.
The degree to which it helps is not guaranteed. We don't know until we do this session what the percentage is going to be of recovery from an issue.
Mm-hmm.
But it does help.
Okay. Well, this is so fascinating.
Anything else you would like to know?
You know, I wish I had like a slew of other questions, but in this moment I don't. I would like to ask, however, for you to share your intention with our viewers, your intention for this work and your intention for how you can show up and be of service.
Mm-hmm. Well, my intention with this work is to be of service to you, to help you to get to your goals, to make your life better, and for you to find your life purpose and fulfillment in your time, and to have an opportunity to let go of the past and be more in the moment with your life, and then to find the deepest joy that you possibly can have in that moment, and to live the most fulfilling life that is possible for you. Because there's so much that's possible out there, and things can get better and better and better. Every day and every way, our lives can get better.
I feel like
As Shakti
they
Gawain
do.
said in Creative Visualization. So, it's just getting better.
High five. I agree with that. Kyra, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yes, this has been so interesting.
It was a pleasure to talk to you.
I think I'm going to have more questions after we turn the camera off, and maybe we'll have to post them online as like a follow-up to this video. And if you have questions, you're more than welcome to post your questions in the comment section of this video, and we can have Kyra perhaps respond.
Oh, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about hypnotherapy or past life regressions.
Also, you can tune in and ask your questions during some of your regular programming. Can you remind us what that is?
Absolutely.
And how do we tune in?
Well, on KKNW's The Love Channel, I talk about hypnotherapy, I give you self-hypnosis guidance, I also do psychic readings, tarot card readings, we have an astrologer, and we have Butch Patrick giving advice from a male perspective and also some recovery advice. And so when we're doing that show, you can call in any Sunday night at 7 p.m. Pacific time. It's KKNW 1150, which is Seattle, Vancouver. So if you want to listen online, you can go to our website, thelovechannel.com. That's the LUV channel.com. And you can get a free reading every Sunday night. And so can your friends. About relationships. It's a love show.
That's phenomenal.
Thank you.
I'm going to call in, you're going to recognize my voice and be like, is that Riyaana on the phone right now? Yes, it is.
Totally okay. You can call every week.
That's wonderful. In addition to that, we definitely want to remind you that you can book a session with Kyra for hypnosis, past life regression, or tarot, or mediumship, right here at Mystic Journey Bookstore. You can call us at 310-399-7070 to schedule your appointment, or you can go to mysticjourneybookstore.com and you can book online. You can see Kyra's schedule. There was one other thing. Kyra, do you teach workshops? You're like, yes, I. Do you teach workshops or classes either for self-hypnosis or tarot or mediumship?
Yes, here at Mystic Journey. So if you're interested, then please get in touch and we'll be setting up more of those.
Yeah, it's a fascinating education, and you'll just be empowering yourself, and you'll be able to help not just you, but perhaps people in your circle and those that are close to you. Otherwise, Kyra is here for you, ready and willing to help. And we just want to say thank you for tuning in and learning more about hypnosis and past life regression. This is MysticU. Namaste.
Namaste.